Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of Connecting Greeks. I am Adi, as always, or not always, but usually down in DC, which was a 62-degree, beautiful spring day. I got the itch today just from feeling this nice spring weather. And joining me, as always, is Foti up in Boston. Hello, Foti. How are you?
Yasu Ari, does that mean that you're wearing shorts because of the weather?
Sortsakia, yes, I am. And speaking of Sortsakia, our friend all the way, that's always beautiful sunny weather in LA, Angelo Tsarukas. Hello, Angelo.
Hey guys, hey Adi, hey Foti, how's it going?
How are you?
Good, brother.
Yeah, it got cool today. It was 82 and sunny.
Oh gosh.
The only good thing about California is the weather right now. The rest of it, fiesta. That's it. Barry goes, what's going on there? I don't know what's going on here, but the weather's great.
That's it.
Good enough.
We're kind
Let's
of
talk about weather.
We're meditating about it. You guys are good?
We're good, man. We're good. What's going on? We have somebody pretty dang interesting today.
We got a great guest. As you know, next month is going to be the bicentennial of Greek independence, March 25th, on my name day, the most prestigious name in the Greek language, Evangelos. And I've always been intrigued with our guest, and I'll tell you why. Never ever have I had a bad conversation with this man. He is a filmmaker. He is an author. He is a writer, television producer, documentary maker. He's made this amazing documentary we're going to talk about called Greece Year Zero, which blew the socks even off the Greeks. And he's my Cubano, so I mean, it's even better. So I'm so happy to welcome on to Connecting Greeks this week, Dannis Koromilas.
Dannis. Here he comes.
Yasu Kubare.
Yasu Kubare, how are you?
Good, how are you? 82-degree LA.
Yeah, how's the family up in Toronto?
Good, we're in a massive civil war of two Greek Calabrese kids, 15 months apart, trapped in 14 months of one house, and we're good. We're good. I'm happy to see your face virtually, because the last time I saw you was your wife's birthday, and we flew in for 48 hours to surprise you. And since then,
we came up to Toronto. Remember, we came up for Danny's birthday.
Oh, that's right. Oh, after. That's right. I've lost track. Anyway, either way,
last time.
Cubano, it's been an unnatural 14 months, because you and I, even though we live bi-coastal, shared experiences, shared parallel careers, with one night in Athens and all that stuff, and your whole career, which I was a fan of. Look, here's where we are, and now out of some kind of loyalty to growing up Greek Canadian, I have been writing this book called Kalamata 21, which is the follow-up of Greece Year Zero. But I just wanted to say, Adi, Foti, God bless you boys. This is a very beautiful and ambitious and wide scope thing that you guys are doing. The only thing I'm going to say is that when I was trying to do some research on you guys, is that Adi, I found very pleasantly on Google and Yahoo, I mistyped Foti. It came up as food stamps.
That happens from time to time.
If you don't type your name in, it comes up as food stamps. And then I didn't realize, am I donating my time or more?
Well, we got food stamps, stamos. Isn't that Greek though? I mean, you type in one thing and you end up getting 9 different things in a thing.
The fact that we're giggling at the same time you were in Montreal and I was in Toronto. The boys are East Coast, Midwest. It is a beautiful thing to continue this thing because, especially on the 200 year, all of us are from the same fathers and mothers.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, sir.
100%. Now, Dannis, we're going to get into it. I want to talk about Kalamata 21, Sparta, America, GYZ. But, you've lived in New York. You've lived in Melbourne. You lived in Los Angeles, Toronto. You went on what they call a walkabout.
Huh.
And I know you've been to Greece numerous times when you're doing the film. And I want to start off. I just want to start, if it's okay, I want to start off because Greece Year Zero won numerous awards. And talk about an ambitious project. You worked on it for what, 6 years, 7 years?
It was 6.
6 years. And Adi and Forti, if you can watch something that I was like blown away. And if I'm correct, Dannis, even the Greeks in Greece didn't even know a third of the stuff that you had dug up on that film. Can you tell us a bit about what happened and what is Greece Year Zero? And then I want to get to Kalamata 21.
All right. Well, to really shrink it down.
Yeah.
Around 2009, 2010, the Greeks got battered in the worldwide financial crisis as being lazy and this and that. And the headlines were good in the UK and Germany, even in the US and all over. And I said, how does one country of 10.5, maybe 11 million people contribute to possibly Wall Street and German bankers and French bankers and everybody? They attacked the character of the Greeks. So I went through a period of, even though I didn't want to, that wasn't part of my life at that point. I looked at Greece from 1821 to where they were, and what is the Greek character? How did they ended up in every other continent surviving, perpetuating, and making money and being proud, great guys, families, women, and they're the cause. And I looked deeper and I realized they were the scapegoat. And then I went further into the Greek Famine of 1941, where the German army took 30 million livestock out of Athens, and 750,000 Greeks fell on the sidewalk. And then I went further and saw that all these newsreels in America and the UK were talking about, oh, Uncle Joe Stalin, Uncle Joe Stalin, the last friend of the UK in the battle against the Nazi threat. But it wasn't true. The Greeks were the last country in Europe to fight Albania, Bulgaria, Mussolini's army, and the Nazi forces, and hung on till the Battle of Crete. But when you win a war and you have production studios and publishing houses, your story never gets out the way it does in Hollywood. And I did it. And I did it. It took 6 years because I'd been involved in screenwriting and some television episodic production. I realized I'm not going to make a film and put my name on it unless I can author every 5 to 10 second frame of every part of that film to make sure it's actually historically accurate, which meant that I had to go to London, to the Imperial War Museums, the Churchill War Rooms, and all that stuff. The left wing in Greece was wrong in the post-World War II. The right wing was wrong in the junta of 67. And everybody since then has been wrong on politically. But who has paid for it? The regular Greeks for political ideologies. They killed more people when the Germans left amongst themselves during World War II occupation. Truth is a very important thing right now. And here's the last thing I want to say about Greece Year Zero, which, you know, Ert, when I went to finish the film, the Greek Prime Minister, Samara, which I thought was wrong in that moment when he shut them down, maybe he wasn't so wrong. They were fat and a little bit very swaying to left principles and this and that, and they weren't doing a lot, and they didn't help me. And when they were shut down, I had to go into the back streets of Greece, archives, personal archives, grandmothers that had pictures, people that had footage. In the end of the day, the only reason that my film ended up on Ert is because I walked down the middle line that everybody in the history of Greece has failed, whether left or right. And that's it. That's like, all it was.
Ert is like the Olympic Airways of television, right? It was like really everybody was getting cushion jobs. And we're not criticizing, it's a fact of what we're talking about right now. Here's an airline that had how many? 30,000 employees for X amount of airplanes. They have the same amount of employees as, let's say, not American Airlines, but let's say Alaska, a major American player. But the thing, Dannis, and you make a good point here. And when I saw the documentary, which I hope 1490 will get a chance to see it, when I saw the documentary, what interested me was things I heard from my father or from my uncles. Like my dad left Greece in 1949 after Civil War. My dad said Civil War in Greece was far more devastating than World War II.
Yes.
He knew who the enemies were. So my dad had to leave. He came to Canada with his sister, ended up at Pier 21 in Halifax at 15 years old, took a train from Halifax to Montreal. He had an uncle there, and within 3 days was working in a car wash in Montreal. Here's a boy from the village who's gone to somewhere he doesn't even know where it is and is working in a car wash. And I think the thing I loved about Greece Year Zero, Dannis, and this is attributed to you, and it has nothing to do with anything. It shows you really the resilience of Greek people. And you just said it. How many Greeks are in the world? Diaspora and Greece, 23, 24 million, maybe around that. There's 7.2 billion people in the planet. Yet the impact of this little country in the Mediterranean sends shockwaves around the world. And it's a testament to the resiliency of the Greeks. Same in World War II. Who were the real people that fought the Nazi regimes? It was English. And like you said, the Greeks. The Italians lost. Mussolini tried to go to Metaxa Oikide. I'm just condensing it now.
You're right,
and
yeah.
They were able, the Greeks said no. Now, in fairness to the Greeks, and you've said this to me yourself, Dannis, the Greeks and Italians didn't really want to fight each other. They felt like they were fighting the same people.
Yeah.
So I think that was it. But the Greeks didn't, that was the first Allied victory. And I know that because I watched your film. The first Allied victory in World War II was Greece.
Was the Greeks.
Over Italy.
Was the Albanian. And, you know, not to get mired into the historical stuff, but just what you said right now about your 49 and my father's 63 trip on the Queen Frederica to Halifax. Here's what's important about the 200-year anniversary of the Greek War of Independence. It goes back to probably a couple of thousand years. Drive up to Washington or go to Rome or Berlin or France. The pillars are the same. Washington, D.C., the Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson, the National Archives, the Capitol, everything looks exactly like it did 2,200 years ago. And people will call you, you're too proud to be Greek. You have no connection no lineage to that because it was all broken up over Greeks, city-states, Alexander, Philip of Macedon, Alexander, the Romans, the Byzantine, the Ottomans, this and that. But the truth is that look around the world, roam the world. Even Syria, they blew up the Roman temples 4 years ago that were Roman temples that were for Apollo or Dionysus. The Greek influence has been present and is still present even today. And so when you say you want to be proud, well, you don't have to be proud. Look at National Geographic. Look at how Washington, D.C. still looks like ancient Athens. Am I making this up?
No, because, you know, it's funny because, you know, Dannis, I was in Nashville, Tennessee doing shows. And do you know, guys, for the World's Fair, they have a total replica of the Parthenon.
That's right.
And I freaked. I go, we went, my girlfriend at the time had come with me. This is years ago. And we were there and is that the Parthenon? And the guy goes, yeah, they made a, you know, it's sort of crumbled a bit in Greece. They made a full 2-scale Parthenon in Nashville, Tennessee of the Parthenona. And we had lunch by there. And I was like, wow. And I go, what's this for? It's a World's Fair, like in the early 1900s. They made this in Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, Ange, when I send the film to Adi and Thorti, there's a frame that looks like an ancient Greek theater. It looks like a period piece, a black and white shot that I lifted from somewhere. It's from Tennessee, a remaking of things in the 1930s. You're absolutely right. So we are braggarts. We brag all the time. We brag, especially against Italians. And I'm married to an Italian. We brag all the time because everything, good or bad, is from us. The mob is from tyrannies and stuff from Laconia, from the Magnates, from Athens. Right. We're the best and the worst, and that's what we did for the rest of the world. We did the best and the worst.
You're right, because where was the Greek settlements in Italy? They were in Sicily and Palermo. And who was it? The Magnates were the ones, and the Greeks, that was all Greek, and they still have the names and Greek-speaking Italians. So
Magna Graecia.
Nostra, and we're the ones that taught them, you know, the macaronadas about all this stuff.
Look, here's what I could say right now to kind of make a little bit of a capsulization of Greece Year Zero. When it happened, I did it to remind people, are you kidding me? This little country is the last bastion of what you guys had left. We delayed Hitler's Barbarossa to get to Russia. We dragged their asses into Crete and then to Russia. And of course, Stalin just threw hundreds of thousands of unwelcoming soldiers that were going to get shot either in front or from behind,
right? From
Stalin. And when it came out, there was a great comment I got from a York University professor, a friend of mine. It's either Saki or Chris Grafos. He said, "Congratulations, you finally have brought forward a revisionist history of Greece." And I thought to myself, I've never heard the word revisionist before until 1992, when Clint Eastwood made Unforgiven, and he won all those Oscars. And the Academy Awards, they called Unforgiven a revisionist masterpiece. And I thought to myself, why is Unforgiven a revisionist masterpiece? If he did it closer to what had happened with the cowardice and the massacres and the bullshit, why is he revising it? Isn't his the real version and the romanticism of the Wild West, the bullshit. So when these professors emailed me, I said, why am I revisionist? This is the real version. Why do I have to be called a revisionist for what actually happened with Greece actually doing what they did, but they didn't have the movies and the books and the propaganda post 1950 to prove it. Revisionist means, when you hear revisionist in my books now, it means that you got to some accuracy.
Right.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's deep,
But
right?
Dannis, let me ask you, because this is along the lines of what we've been talking about. For every culture, and this is why I admire the Jewish culture and the Israeli culture. They are constantly reminding their people about what they've gone through. You know, my wife's Armenian. They had a genocide with, you know, and they never got recognition on it. Hitler was quoted as saying, "Who remembered the Armenians?" You know, and then I find sometimes people say to me now, and this is delicate what I'm going to say, but they say, "Well, I was on a cruise ship once doing a gig, and I met these Black African people smoking cigars," and they go, "You don't understand the plight of the Black African and the slave." And I said, "You're right, I don't, but I hate to tell you, but you're not the only people that have been enslaved." And what I meant by that was, in 1922 in Atlanta, Georgia, there were signs in restaurants saying no Blacks, no Jews, no Greeks. Greeks would open restaurants serving Black African people. I'm telling them this now. I said in 1964, Selma, when they crossed the bridge, Dr. Martin Luther King, the head of the Greek Orthodox Church in America, who was told not to do it, walked alongside Dr. King. So I said to them, look, I can't sit here and tell you, but there was a point in time where my people were enslaved by the Ottomans and slaughtered, and my wife's people were marched out into a desert. So I think what the thing is, and you said it earlier, the propaganda of it, I think the Greeks, that's why we have words in the Greek language nobody else has, like philotimo, and you know, and all these things where we understand the plight. And I think at the end of the day, the cradle of democracy, as we know it as Greece, is the place, because we have philotimo. Regardless, we can fight amongst each other and we can disagree on things. Ala to susto in susto, right? And I think what I liked about Greece Zero, Year Zero, when I watched it, was regardless of the famine and the wars and the friggin' politics, and you know, all the communists took all of Eastern Europe, but somehow they failed in Greece. And then the junta, which you cover, and then I mean, there was so much that it's amazing to me how this country, and we're all products of that. And that's what I'm telling these guys. And I was able to say confidently, I go, I'm not saying that your people didn't suffer. That's a wrong statement. But I will say we empathize with it. We sympathize with it because we understand it. And I think at the end of the day, that is something I truly believe separates Greeks from almost anybody else on the planet. What do you think about that? That's how I feel. Like,
well, look, Adi, Foti, look, I know I didn't mean to monopolize the whole thing, but
you're the
I
guest.
do have to say that
absolutely not.
just to say something. The fact that this moment here is happening is we're discussing good things and bad things, and I appreciate that, and you saw it. I was very neutral. It's very easy to make a film about historical things and lambaste one side of everything.
True. You didn't do that though.
I could have done that and done two different versions of the film. One to appease AHAPA and one to appease the Greek America Foundation. And I could have done that for the sake of what? A couple of bucks? Really? After 6 years? No. This is the truth. The real truth about Greeks are, as it's eroding, especially now in Kalamata 21, which is going to be a problematic essay book, because if you were alive and well in the 70s and growing up and going and marching for March 25th, 1821, you thought that Greece won the war in one day. After 400 years of slavery, the Greeks just marched from Kalamata, won their country back. But that's not the case. And it was not taught to us in any way. And even Ert, when I was dealing with Greece Year Zero, they said, how do you know this? Or how did you straddle this line? Because Tsipras was in power when I was finishing it. And he was a left-wing guy. And they still accepted it because they were, in a way, being diplomatic. Yeah, we did also. But I didn't go to hammer anybody, but Greeks are very difficult people because the Greeks own history. In Cairo, in Alexandria, in Rome, in Venice, in the lagoons, in the Black Sea of the Ukraine, the Greek people have pretty well. Odessa in the Black Sea is based on a Greek name of the Trojan War. We own the world, and now we own all the greatest battles and massacres and everything else. But on Kalamata 21, this is the true story of what I've seen happened in about 140 pages. Yes, we had to go. We had to do what we did.
Sorry, Dan, to interrupt you. Is this going to be a book or a film?
The book is already in process now. It's going to be an ebook.
Ebook.
On the panmessenian.ca website. By Easter, it will be a physical book, but it's called Kalamata 21. It's an anthology of pieces of essays that I've written, and Kolokotroni's diary, the Filikieteria, the friendly society that operated from 1815 to 1820 in Zurich, in Venice, in Rome, in Vienna, on the Black Sea, in Moscow. They figured how we are rich, great capitalists, but our home used to be Asia Minor or Hydra or Chios or Athens or wherever. And they realized we can probably, since Napoleon failed, maybe we can get the Morea back, Peloponneso, which you, Kubare, you're a Magnati, because I know you hold grudges and you are a Spartan.
Total Spartan.
You're a total Spartan.
Well, here's the thing, because my mom's a Nishotis, as you know, Kubare. She's from Mytilene, formerly of Smyrna before they threw them all out.
Yeah.
And, and it's Mikrashotes, and they're more like Liaki, they're more open. And, my dad.
Yeah. Because they had money running through their islands for 300 years.
I mean, my dad never liked my mom's family, to be honest with you. He thought they're all commies. And he's from Sparta, and their motto is, if we don't understand something, we kill it. That's Sparta. And to this day, and you can see, honestly, I know it's a joke, guys, but you can see the personality types from the Peloponneso, from Sparti, from Mani, Molau, all those places down southern Greece. And if you're going to go to a war, if there's going to be a fight at a bar, those are the guys you want behind you. Because they're not backing off. And I realized that, but then, because somebody said to me, you're a comedian, you're an actor. I go, yeah, I think that's more mom, and I think it's more mom. Mom was, she's delightful and she loves people and she's always joking. And dad's like, tiki tayaftos. right? Like there was no, it was, and my brother is very much like my dad.
You're probably the first post 250-pound hybrid of the gentleness of the islands and the Maniati, Black Irish, Vendetta, Spartan Greeks. Post 250 pounds, you're the hybrid of your mother and father.
You know me. But it's true. And you know what's funny? It's like most of, like my wife will say this because I can be an asshole. She goes, I don't get you. You're like so funny sometimes, and you're so caring, and you're so gentle. But then when it comes, like, and then when it comes to business or things that got to be done, I'm totally my dad. That kicks in. My dad would say to us, I don't care where you guys go all night. 8 o'clock in the morning, you malakas are going to be in the store. He didn't give a shit. He never tell us not to go out. He could care less. You're in the store, man. I don't care. He goes, I did the same shit you guys did. It was tough love, but it made me the person I am.
You know, Ange, before I actually even go into Kalamata 21, I want to tell you that in my research of Greece Year Zero, I found these university testimonials and PhDs and all that stuff. They talked about literature and archetypes of characters. And there was Dionysus, wine and song and passion and this and that, and vengeance, and Apollo, the sun, work all day, don't worry about it, military. And the Greeks have been bipolar since mythology. The sun, the fun, the stuff, the partying, and wake up, it's time for work. We've been the most bipolar race in the history of mankind. And my name is Dionysus Koromilas. I'm Dionysus. Ñoño in some parts.
Yes.
But to move into Kalamata 21.
Yes, let's. What now? Tell us about Kalamata 21. That's got to be one of the funniest things I've heard. So Kalamata, tell us what Kalamata 21 is. That's why we're here. Tell us.
All right. So I joined up 5 years ago with an old friend from high school, George Lahaki, who became president of the Pan-Messinian Association in Toronto. And he went after me, and I said, I'm trying to finish a film on the 200-year history of modern Greece. I got no time. He goes, just help me out. Come on board. And I said, I'll come on board only till the 200-year anniversary. I want to make it good, and I want to make it historic. And I'll help you if you are invested. And he was. Well, in the last 5 years, it went from 800, 900, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200. And last year in Toronto, we got to 1,100 people on March 3rd, 1 week before the shutdown of SARS, which half of the people in the dance were 60 or 65 and over. We never got our shot at the 2,500 to 3,000 dance for the bicentennial of the Pan-Messinian Association, which we deserved because for 5 years, we have eclipsed the Greek community and the Northerners and everybody else. We were the deal. Because of that, in lieu of everything else, I said, I will dedicate a year of my life to write this book. And that's what this is about. That being said, yes, there are essays from historical things and this and that, but this is the only way that we can actually contribute a legacy to the 200-year, because we're not going to do the 2,000, 2,500 person dance. But what we will do is this book, Kalamata 21. And by saying that, I'm telling you that I found the same worry What I found out in the 70s and even 80s and 90s was not truthful. We didn't win the war, man. It took another 7 years. We slaughtered, they slaughtered.
Right.
The Greeks, to get to where they got to in 1830, was a complete. You couldn't make a movie about this. It would have been like Genghis Khan and the Mongols killing all the Russians, or the Highlanders, or the worst war movie you ever saw. The only difference is that I've found the balancing point is that 370 years in Kalamata, the people lived like slaves. They lived like slaves. Their
Right.
children could be carted off, retrained, and brought back as guards. So the Greeks finally in Kalamata, March 23rd, 1821, said, we're going, with the Filiqueteria and of course help from Europe and everything else. But the reason it's called Kalamata 21 is because Mavro Michali, on your side of the Mount Paitos,
Right.
the king of Mani, he shouldered up, and Papa Flessa was there too. And we took over Kalamata and Messenia and moved up to Tripoli and everywhere else. And that's the only reason. And some of it is going to be dire and not looking good for the reputation of Greek soldiers or captains in 1821 to 1824, based on English, French, Prussian, Russian interpreters. But I've never found a perfect revolution without slaughter and this and that. And the Greeks, whatever they did in Tripoli especially, they learned from their oppressors. If there was beheadings, they knew it from the people on top of them.
Right.
They beheaded the Ottomans that once ruled them. Period. That's it. There's no perfect revolution. The Bolsheviks were the last example. And how did that work out? But in the end, as we speak tonight, February 24th, 2021, Greece regained the islands after World War II because of their forever historic fight for Albania and the Metaxa line, and how they fought with the British, and in Cairo and in Crete. We got our islands back, and we got Thrace back and Macedonia back in 1912. The only difference right now that I see that I'm exposed to historically for Kalamata 21 is the Turkish government, which is still involved in Cyprus, in Nicosia. And they're still charting waters on Greek islands right now as we speak.
Right.
They have no, I'm not worried about getting a lawsuit from the Turkish government, ever.
Right. So, you know, because you see even the news reports, if you're on social media, you could see that they're mounting up on a lot of the islands that they feel, because, you know, after, like you said, when they divided them, I don't think Turkey was interested in them. And then they realized later the profitability and the accessibility that they provided. And I think you're right in a sense now that we're celebrating the bicentennial. And you know, I think it's important that people, they say you don't know how to go forward if you don't know what happened in the past, right?
Right. Great,
And-
great.
And I think what you're doing, and I think educating a lot of people to understand that even now, like now they're upset, you know, Greece got new, those new Sparta, it was F-16s. The Americans are giving them to them. Israel is refitting them. The Emirates and Israeli Air Force is doing maneuvers with the Greek Air Force. And this is just because they're like, look, you know, I mean, I know there's a lot of diplomacy going on between Ankara and Athens, but at the same time, they keep invading at the Greek airspace, coming back. I know Cyprus is another issue on those things. And what's that little, is it Castellorizo? Is that the little island?
Lorenzo, yeah.
Castellorizo, where I think, was it, what's his name? Mitsotakis went to visit, and the Turks said it was a sign of a threat.
Why is that a provocation?
Provocation. And then I'm thinking, well, look, he's the Greek prime minister visiting a part of Greece. He's entitled to do that. So they're looking, when somebody's like, when you're in a fight and you don't want to fight the guy, but the guy's trying to find a reason to fight you. So he's going to try to poke you. And you looked at my sister, or you said this. It's that kind of shit. So I think it's important, though, because those are minuscule, not minuscule, but I think it's important that, because I know how brilliant you are in what you do. You wrote a show called The Bridge, and you did all these other great things and documentaries. But at the same time, I think we share the same spirit of Hellenism, and the boys are this Adium Forti, and I think a lot of people are. Do you find, Dannis, that, see, in Canada, it's a little different. I found in America, and I'm going to go off topic for a second here, we were able to speak Greek more freely. I'm not saying maybe in Boston or the Northeast, not so much. New York, Boston, Chicago, they do. But I found in other parts of America, I mean, people from like Nebraska and from Kansas who were Greek, and they spoke Greek in the home, but they were scared to speak it in public. And one time I was at a Greek restaurant here in LA, and I'm talking to the guy in Greek, and he kept answering me in English. And I go, Yetimo apandas ta Anglika. Xeris tixero. And he looks at me and goes, where are you born? I said, Canada, Montreal. And he shook his head, because I think in America, and I'm not saying all of America, that's not fair. That's not a fair reception. But I found in Canada where you could say, see, here's the difference, guys, between Canada and America. We're Greek Canadians. We're in America, you're American Greeks. I think, and I'm not saying I live in America now, so I love America. I'm just differentiating my upbringing in a Commonwealth country, right?
If I can add that, Angelo,
Sure.
is that, to your point, growing up in Boston as a child, yes, we spoke Greek in the house, but when we left the house, my parents wanted to also make sure that we spoke the English language from an early age, because of different insecurities or different views about how we would be looked at as a Greek family living in a predominantly Irish neighborhood back in the 70s, where back in the 70s, it was in Boston was a pool of racism going on with different cultures. So we were afraid to speak. Yes.
Southie?
Southie, yes. So I grew up in Southie as a kid, and as a 4-year-old, my dad had a little diner in South Boston, and I got to witness the busing era days where I watched, Irish youngsters throwing, rocks and bricks at school buses that were busing in kids from the black neighborhoods. And my dad used to say, don't speak Greek. Mimila silnika, thawon fasarias. So that was planted in my head as a 4-year-old living, growing up in Boston, where, we had to adjust for the fear of our safety.
Adi, did you have the same experiences?
I gotta say no, because I grew up in Boston, and I grew up in a predominantly Irish neighborhood, not Southie, in a place called Somerville. It used to be called Slummerville. And I felt that way when I was out on my own. But at home, my dad is like, no English in this house, Greek only. We're only speaking Greek. I want you guys to, be proud of your heritage. Like, no matter what anybody says, this is who you are, blah, blah, blah. So I got that vibe from home. But being out, and speaking a foreign language, being in Boston was always like, an iffy thing. But at home, like, my dad was just really hardcore about keeping the Greek and speaking Greek and never, like, being scared of who you are type of stuff.
I want to commend you on your English.
Thank you. Oh, Adi?
It's good. So that's cool. But so Dannis, Kalamata 21, we're looking forward to it. I got to ask you, because we could talk to you like 5 hours here, but we don't have 5 hours.
We'll go again after the.
No, 100%. We're going to be, this is really,
Right now,
I think the guys are in on this too. I thought they love it.
Absolutely.
Sparta America. I love the title. Can you briefly tell us what is Sparta America about? Because I think I know what it is, but what's your vision of that you're Sparta America?
well, you know, just so you know, Ange, the guy that's actually editing it is Marcus Durian in LA.
Oh, okay, yes. Well, I know Marcus for sure.
Filmmaker,
Great.
and
Yes.
he's a Philippine,
Yep.
Canadian, New York guy, whatever, cinematographer. His film Fish Head has actually won some awards now in 2020, 2021. Sparta America is Sparta America. I did a little parallel of who wins if you go one way with culture and this and that, or Sparta. I know Frank Miller and the 300 Spartans and all that stuff. That was a great $350 to $500 million project. But the truth is, Athens has possibly 3.5 to 4 million people living in Athens. And Sparta has 60,000.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's about right.
So. I think right on.
Okay. Is that true, Kubade?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
All right. So now,
Yeah.
So now going on that same premise of the greatest societies ever, I saw what Trump was doing in 2017, his first year in, and I said, he's got a point, and sort of the other people got a point. Who's more careful? Who's more soft? Who's left? Who's right? Who's this? Who's a leader? Who's a leader? The Athenians had tyrants. The Spartans had tyrants, oligarchs, but the Spartans removed them quickly. And I did this historical timeline of Sparta America with end of World War II. Eisenhower wants John F. Kennedy to become president. And that's it. And it happened. And all the way till 2020, who expected 2016 for Trump to become president? And how do his last 4 years measure up to when conservatives and liberals faced up to all the wars and internal wars and civil wars of leadership of when the Spartans and Athenians dealt with it? And if you go the Marine way, which is, you know, the US Marines use the Spartan code as their code. How do you last longer than 200 years? Because Sparta only lasted 200 years. And the Chinese are at 2,000 years right now. So my cinematic essay of Sparta America is unadulterated, unequivocally left or right. Sparta America. Here are your leaders from 1950 to 2020. How did they deal with the same shit that they've all dealt with for 70 years? The Shah of Iran, OPEC, Turkey, Russia, Ukraine, everything, civil rights, Vietnam. Vietnam crossed over 4 presidencies. Iraq. Everybody blames George Bush. George Bush got the notion in March 2003 with 98% of Congress.
That's right. They approved it.
They approved it in a full And the Democrats later on say, oh, you did this, you did that. Even Obama said that. Iraq Part 2 is all of America, not George Bush. It's the Democrats and Republicans. That's why my favorite writer, Hunter S. Thompson, when the 9/11, when the towers fell, and he wrote this book called Kingdom of Fear. He wrote about it days after the towers went down. And he said, someone's going to pay. We don't know who's going to pay, but someone's going to pay to appease. And that's what we keep doing, appeasing. But in the end of the day, as far as Greece and Kalamata 21, yes, the Greeks slaughtered too. They did. But guess what? They won with European help because the Europeans loved them. Their descendants, their ancestors were great thinkers. And now these Horiates, these farmers, they didn't know what they were getting into. They were just hacking away. But Greece does deserve where they are and their islands and Thraki. That was theirs for thousands of years. Turkey should be comfortable with Turkey. That's all they ever did. That's all they ever did.
Yeah. It was a third Armenia, a third Greece. They jammed it together. And now because, you know, they do have a big economy. They have their own internal problems, by the way. You know, they have their own issues. Erdogan, I think, staged a fake coup. I think the world knew it. All of a sudden he showed up as the hero. And with all these other things that are going on, it's nice to know. But, you know, Dannis, when you look at now, because for me, I think the preservation of our culture in any way, shape, or form, what we're doing right now, with what you're doing, what Adi's doing, what Forti's doing, you know, I think I'm not saying you have to make it your focal point, because we do live in the Western world, but it's there. Like right now, somebody said to me on a podcast, what do you want to do now, Ange, I said, I want to go to Greece every year. And they go, really? I go, that's all I want to do. I go, you know what? I'm tired of the politics in California. You know, I live in America. Last week, I went with Russell to Florida. Everything's open. Then I come back to Nazi communist California. Everything's closed. So I'm confused. In 5 hours, you got two different factions of people living two different ways in the same country. So we don't know. My wife's, you know, wash your hands, put your mask, wear your Purell. I'm not saying COVID doesn't exist. It does exist. We all know it exists. But how is it that 5 hours away, they have a complete total attitude? Texas, Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. It's like, it doesn't exist. Canada, I know, curfews and all kinds of stuff. So I think what's happening now, this period of COVID has given us more time to reflect. And I'm starting to realize, Kubata, like for me, it's a lot of horse shit. And maybe ancestrally, or maybe it's in me, my 8-year-old says, Daddy, I want to go to Greece. My Armenian American wife says she wants to go to Greece. And I'm thinking, you know what? So do I. I'm just fed up with the Malachias. I mean, I'm just like, I understand we got to deal with it. And I understand that we have a bicentennial coming up, which is unfortunate because Greece is on lockdown. I'm hoping they're going to be able to open up in a month to do some things to celebrate it. But at the same time, I'm just like fed up, you know, and that's why people go to Greece. Why does the world go to Greece now? Hollywood, everybody in the world is going to Greece, man.
They do, but not in this March. Cubato, I empathize with you. And the fact that you went to Florida, to Trump country, good for you. But the truth is that the reason we're discussing this is because we haven't lost anybody.
Yes.
The U.S. has lost more people than they did in Vietnam over this thing. And you're talking about Florida?
War II and Korea.
Well, I get it.
And Korea.
Yeah.
Come on.
And Korea.
And those people, and as far as Ontario goes, in Toronto, your old birthplace, Ontario and Quebec.
Yeah.
In 13 months, I know personally, people couldn't even go to the cemetery or to the last rites.
Yeah.
You think just because it was more applicable to people over 68 or 72, and
freeze
then
up?
preconditions, they never got their send-off properly either here in Toronto or Woodbridge. Italians that I know, and Greeks that I know, and in Montreal and Florida, don't flout it, Cubano. Don't flout it.
No, I'm not. No. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying, Cubano, is how can I live in the same country? I'm not. I went to work. How can I live in the same country with two different? That's what I'm saying. I understand.
It's a big country. You know, our country's as big as, like, you know, so many places that have multiple countries. And, you know, you just have the chances that you and I and Forty and Dannis will succumb to something like COVID is very low. But that's not the point. The point is that you have to be selfless for the weaker people, for the people who may succumb, as 500,000 did succumb. And that's why there's these arcane,
which is more than Vietnam.
Yeah.
Right. But see what I'm saying, though, guys, I was freaked out. I've been on lockdown for this long. That's what I was trying to say. Maybe it didn't come across right. What I'm saying is that I went there, mask in pocket, Purell in pocket, took a COVID test when I got off the plane. It's not bragging. I couldn't wrap my brain around it. Like, how is this happening? Like, well, I mean, and then we went for like 6 days, and then we came back, took a COVID test at the airport. Now we're back with my family, and I know it's a real thing. And I know I have friends who've died from it. I have friends in Canada who died from it. But is it? I know we've gone off a bit, but it's a mentality. I think that, you know, people are the thing we can't control is human behavior. I think that's the one thing we cannot control.
I think you're right, and just to put a cop on it, I think California and Florida are going to end up with the same ratio with different ways about it, and it's going to look bad on both governorships. It was going to happen anyway. Florida and California are going to have the same. The difference is, I think, that Florida, the places that I've been to, they own houses and they're over 60 and they're retired and they're wealthy people and all that stuff, and they're going to be fine, and California will be fine. I think we're all going to be fine here, Kubata. Just to lighten the moment, now that I've got my avenue for 1 second, in 2005, before I married my wife, I went to the comedy festival in Montreal.
Yep.
And I went to come meet you for a coffee.
I remember.
The minute that I walked into the hotel lounge and I saw you there, even though I was going to be on my best behavior with my girlfriend, whatever, because she was working with you in the industry, the minute that we locked eyes, you lifted up out of your seat and you embraced me and put meat hooks over me. Yasu levendi. Like we had known each other
forever.
From forever. In the middle of the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal in the spring of 2005. And I remember, holy shit, he beat me to it. But you did that. And Danny, my wife, still says, why did you and him do that? And I keep telling her, I go, that's our DNA.
It's true. Yeah.
It's our DNA.
I heard about
I knew you as much as you knew me.
Right. It didn't matter. And you know, it's funny because your wife, who I adore, and is also my agent in Canada, but I adore her and I adore your family. I adore all of you. She looked at me, she rolled her eyes, like, you know, because she's like, you Greeks. And I said to her, I said, you know what? I said to her, and I said this to her, you right there, I go, it makes me happy that you upgraded by being with a Greek. She's like, and if you know her, she doesn't take no shit.
Hey, just the record. Back then, she was a Nissan Murano. She's in a Mercedes Benz now.
So Dannis, because this hour went by really fast, and we had so much fun.
Oh
No, don't
great.
apologize. This was great. And I love talking to you because we don't always agree to everything. And I love this. I love this because this is who you are, and that's why I adore you for this. I want to get. We're going to finish off because Forti always has a set of questions about being Greek that he's going to ask you, and they're light questions. But before that, I want to give a plug out, and Ari's going to follow it up. So, what can people expect to work, social media, and where to find stuff after they watch this podcast? Where they can find your stuff if they want to research it and look for it.
All right, panmessinian.ca. Panmessinian.ca is the website for Kalamata 21.
Okay.
That's really what I'm doing tonight.
Okay.
My stuff is going to come after Easter. DannisKoromilas.com for everything else. But right now, my volunteer work is Kalamata 21. I want to record the best version, honest version of 200 years of how we got free. And it's not pretty.
Okay. Well, that's great. So, panmessinian.ca is where Kalamata 21.
Yes.
And then Dannis Koromilas, that's going to come afterwards.
That's after.
Greece Year Zero. So that's great, man. Well, I mean, I'm going to pass it on Forti and Ari, but I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Hour went by like this, and I know we could go on for 3 hours with you, but we're going to do this again for sure because we're going to come back with other stuff with you.
Yes, we will. But I want Adi and Forti. I'm going to send you now a Vimeo link to the Greece Year Zero so they can see it.
Absolutely, please.
Send it to me too. I want it too.
Love that.
All right, so let me know and I'll send it. Adi, Forti, thank you very much. God bless you guys.
Of course, absolutely. This has been not just a pleasure, but an honor. I've truly enjoyed listening to your thoughts, your views, and you put things into perspective because now I'm more than intrigued to learn more because of what you just presented tonight. And I want to thank you for that. And I want to keep this relationship going with you ongoing, thanks to Angelo.
Isekirios. That's a very gentlemanly compliment. I love when people are classy and looking forward. That's all I do in my life. How can I learn more?
Dannis, that's good old food stamps right there.
but Dannis, we also would like to know a little bit about you as a person and as a Greek American, Greek Canadian. I'm going to ask you a set of questions so that our audience can know you a little better. But before I ask those questions, real quickly, where are your roots in Greece?
So my father was born in Poliani, Greece, the same birthplace as Grigorios Dikeos, Papaflessa, one of the top 5 rebel and martyrs of the 1821 war.
Okay.
One of the most controversial men in that whole 7 years.
So then both your parents are from that part of Greece?
My mother was from originally Zagarina, but Koromilia, outside of Messini.
Okay.
And the Terpei are brilliant people also.
Excellent. So, Dannis, tell us your favorite and least favorite Greek food.
Favorite? Spanakorizo.
Okay.
Good. Very nice.
Yep.
Worst, that goat mangling death of Easter Saturday night. What's that called?
Matzah or Margheritza?
What? Margheritza. The death of all women of the Turkish Empire.
Make sure we take notes of this, Ari, so we have comparisons of every guest. Excellent. Moving forward, can you tell us some of your parents' favorite sayings to you as a kid growing up? Anything that sticks to you that you remember your mom and your dad just kept drilling into your head.
It was probably something mean, as Greek parents do.
Like some of the examples I give out was, every
Don't worry about It's not about examples.
Ah.
It's about me metering and filtering how not.
No filter here. No
My
filter.
mom turned 77 on Wednesday.
Bless her.
Not to hurt
Bless
her.
her.
Not
Not to hurt her.
Not the Hiyasia, Angelo.
So I would say one of them would be Ilithia Zone.
Zone.
Yeah, but that's
I go with Zone.
So
okay. We're all very familiar with those for sure.
Oh yeah.
Hey, and add Disquidonias.
yes.
Yeah.
They always put
Like
that
you're
in.
not part of even society. You're like shit.
You're not just the zone in the house, you're a zone in the whole community.
Yeah, you couldn't make it out there either.
Oh man, this is great. This hits it home. And the last question, Dannis, is, as Greeks, I feel that we're super into being superstitious. Any superstition that you still live by, or do you? Or maybe not.
We're too hard on our kids.
We are.
That's deep right there.
Yeah.
That's kind of like is that more of a statement or a superstition? Maybe,
They're tied together.
Yeah. they tie it together.
Excellent. Well, that was very, for me, listening to all of our guests, including yourself, Dannis, the things that we point out really resonates and hits home how we grew up as Greeks around the world.
And we're all the same, man. We're all the same.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Daddy, I know we are, and so is my Kubata, but that is actually a truthful answer. I am personally too hard on my sons. I know that right now.
And it's a cycle of how we grew up and how our parents grew up, and they probably had it harder than we did, but they instill those.
Well,
and then I'm sure that it's something that it's coming from a place that you feel is the best way.
But the softness that happened in the middle right now, between me leaving my parents' house and spending all these decades fucking around in New York and LA and doing on my own and surviving like Angelo did. And now he has one daughter.
You got a daughter. You got two
I now have to realize my kids, my sons, I would never let them go to New York City in 1991 in the middle of a crack epidemic and to write. I'll kill them before I let them go.
Isn't that funny, huh? I drove from Vancouver smoking weed in a convertible. And pupas. I gotta go do Ako Duliesa. My dad, my mom was still crying about it. My dad, they beat us, 19 years old.
No,
that's the thing. Go na these teenage
boys, just before I fly off, is there another question?
No, that was
the last one.
Yeah, that's it.
That actually is the most important question I could have asked tonight, because I feel I've been way too hardcore on my own sons, because that's how I got here. No one else did the shit I did. And I know right now, my sons for Greece or even Italy, their mothers at Calabrese, they're never going to do any of this shit for them. I'm the last of the wine.
Yeah.
Ah.
I'm the last of the wine.
Well, that's why that's why you gotta publish all that stuff you got, Kubata. Kalamata 21, you're leaving a legacy. And that's what impresses me about you. But look,
I love you, because
love
the
you
best
too.
line in any documentary I've seen in the last 10 years is when the wind started blowing. I don't know why the LA Greek Film Festival fucked it up like they did. But on that note, when you said, too many people died for me to keep my last name,
that's true.
and you made that moment in that documentary, and you went back to Laconia, it moved my heart forever. Like, you are a man. You say, Kyrios, you're a fucking levendi, man. You are what I consider my contemporary. You are a fucking hero. But when you said that moment, and then they just spliced it up, they gave the half to the fucking LA Greek Film Festival, and they didn't put the whole thing in. I'm still pissed off with LA.
I know. They didn't like that response when I said, they asked me why I didn't change my name in Hollywood. I said, too many people died for me to have this name.
Bravo.
And they were like, wow. I said, yeah. I mean, why would I change it? And I know you could shorten it. And now it's like, name shaming. You can't do that anymore. So maybe we were ahead of our time, but I never compromised. If you don't know how to say Tsarukas, learn how to fucking say it. That's my name. And I would never compromise it. And that's why Dannis, we had a lot of fun at the film festival though. Anyways, we're going to,
you know what? Sorry, boys.
We're not,
I don't want to make it a very
not
intimate thing, but
all
Adi and Foti, listen, I want to tell you something. I love you guys for doing this. You guys were fantastic. And I believe that you guys will have some legs to this. Let's get through this March 200 year thing, and let's share. You guys have already been doing a great job. I'm sorry for talking too much, but
Please don't be sorry.
You're,
No
you're,
worries.
you're the best, you're the best kind of guest. You're the exact kind of guest we want. We sit back and listen to entertaining, fascinating, interesting stories. And that's what else. This is why we do the show.
all right. If that's the case, I'm going to give you one last story of the first story of me and Angelo Tsarucha before he became godfather to my son, Lucas.
Oh, there we go.
I came out for meetings in LA. I stayed in Russell Peters' house off the Cahuenga Pass. We hung out. It was good. We had cigars. We had good times, and we really had elaborate conversations about the industry. And this is now 2008, 2009. This is now like a long time ago, but during that time, Ange, which I found a levendi, like, I'm telling you the truth, Ange Lucas for me was like, I went to high school with him. We went over to Hagia Sophia. We did the thing. We went to Good Friday, and I had to show up Greek morning, Sunday for Greek Anastasi in Toronto. But Good Friday, Ange and I agreed that we would go to Hagia Sophia in downtown LA by Papa Christos. And we go have lunch. We talk to Papa Christo. He talks about Toronto and the Boulevard and the greatest Greek town ever. Australia, Chicago, LA, New York, Toronto wins. So me and Ange go into the cathedral where Tom Hanks and all of them are going to sit at some point. So we sit down, and I look up and I see Jacob and all these crazy, wild Greek Orthodox revisions of kill your son if you don't believe in me, this and that. And Jacob, and it's horrifying for me. And I went to Greek school and Sunday school till 16 years old. So halfway through, I tell Angelo Tsarukas, look, I love you. I'm glad that you and me came down here for Good Friday. Hold on. I'm glad that we came down here together, but if I look up at the Capitol dome of Hagia Sophia and see Jacob slaughtering his son or anything, I don't feel good about Easter or Good Friday. I don't want to be heretic, but I don't want to embarrass myself in front of you. Is it okay if we leave? And I look over and fucking Saruja is.
I fell asleep.
He's passed out, staring at the dome of Hagia Sophia and snoring on Good Friday, 2008, 2007. And I went, I just did my penance about wanting to leave. I'm going, so then I watched him for a bit and he literally, I went, okay, Ange, why don't we go back to Papa Cristo and we'll get some takeout for Russell's later? He goes, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. And I was free of any Greek Orthodox guilty conscience. That afternoon when I said, I know we came together and I want to share this with you, but do you think we should leave now? And I looked over and we went to Papa Christos. We bought. So hold on. Let me do this. Santorini shrimps, spanakopita, wines, this and that. And we had our night. And Kubata, just so you know.
Yeah.
Montreal and Toronto played that Sunday afternoon.
That's right.
Do you remember that?
I remember that. I'll never forget. You know, I forgot about the church thing until you brought it up, but oh, good times, Kubata. Good times. Well, look, man.
Well, listen, I want to say thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the stories. Thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for everything you brought to the table. Thank you for speaking so well and you know, making our jobs easier, just sitting back and getting educated and fascinated by these stories. So
you're giving me a way out for babbling the whole time, but thank you. Adi, Isa Levendis, thank you for me doing that. And Foti and Kubare, Angelo, I love you. You are, listen, for you, for me, you are one of the greats, buddy. And you always will be. Okay.
I feel the same way about you.
Thank you, Adi and Foti. I appreciate it. I really love you guys.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for listening. We're going to have all Dannis's information linked up. And we want to, once again, thank you, Foti, or Food Stamps. And thank you, Angelo. And Dannis, thank you for giving me the best nickname for Foti that I could think of, which it's awesome. And
don't miss one letter will get you from Foti Stamos to Food Stamps like you've never known.
Thank you so much, guys. Everybody, thank you.
Yes.
And we will see you again, Dannis, I'm sure. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Thanks everybody out there. Bye-bye.